The national government has recently been suggesting that New Zealand could become closer with the USA in terms of our security relations. This idea has been repeatedly raised with reference to the AUKUS agreement and particularly its second pillar. The National Party has a long history of pushing for New Zealand to be a mindless US lackey. The National Party holds a long-standing view that being a minion of the USA is somehow in New Zealand's national interests. This was perhaps best exemplified by Keith Holyoake's national government. Holyoake was the National Party's most successful leader to date, spending over a decade as Prime Minister. Holyoake dragged us into the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was a pointless bloodbath and a completely immoral US intervention. We participated in it because the National Party held the view that we should be a mindless lackey of the USA. Thankfully, National was not in power during the Iraq War, depriving me of another egregious example of National Party foreign policy. It is well known that National has always favoured close relations with the USA. And now we see this again with the suggestion that we should move closer to the USA, and specifically become part of AUKUS. This is a terrible idea. This is a bad idea economically, strategically, and morally. In the modern geopolitical context, siding with the USA means siding against China. The AUKUS alliance is an anti-China alliance. The purpose of the alliance is to counter China. Antagonizing our biggest trading partner is a bad idea economically. Making an enemy of our biggest trading partner is economically dangerous. China is essential to our economic prosperity. Endangering our relations with China is an extremely bad idea economically. Becoming a US ally is also a bad idea strategically. Alliances are a good way of making enemies. When you side with a state, you side against a state. Alliances make us a target. An alliance with the USA will make us a potential target for the enemies of the USA. And the USA has many enemies. So an alliance with the USA can be counterproductive in the sense that it can create more enemies and damage our security. Strategic relations with the USA could easily drag us into a war that we should have no part in. Such relations could make New Zealand a military target and endanger the lives of New Zealanders. I don't want New Zealand to be dragged into a war by the antagonistic and reckless conduct of the USA. Siding with the USA is also a bad idea morally. The USA has no moral credibility. The USA participates in everything that it condemns. The USA criticizes dictatorships. The USA has a long history of overthrowing democratic governments and supporting dictatorships. The USA criticizes aggressive state conduct. The USA has a long history of starting wars and destabilizing entire regions. The USA engages in everything it criticizes. The USA has been aggressive, cruel, imperialistic, and violent. Recently, the USA has been supporting ethnic cleansing and mass slaughter in Palestine. The USA has no moral credibility. We should not stain our international reputation and destroy our moral credibility by pursuing closer security relations with the USA. If we consider ourselves a moral actor, a righteous country, we must avoid becoming a close ally of immoral and evil states, such as the USA. Siding with the USA is a bad idea because it will severely damage our moral credibility. Siding with the USA facilitates the evil of the USA by making it free of consequence. The USA should face consequences for its evil actions, and that means not getting to use other states as the pawns of its immoral ambition. Righteous states should refuse close strategic relations with the violent and immoral USA. Some may argue that China also lacks moral credibility. I agree that China also lacks moral credibility, which is why I am not arguing that we should side with China. New Zealand should remain neutral. We should not take a side in this. We should not participate in the geopolitical hysteria and senseless antagonism that leads only to death and suffering. So long as the states of the region are neutral and disinterested in conflict, conflict will remain unlikely. If the USA knows that other states stand behind it, its confidence will increase. It will become more and more reckless until a war inevitably occurs. Neutrality ensures greater stability than antagonistic posturing and divisive alliances ever could. We spend time preparing for a war without asking if we really want a war. We create a deadly self-fulfilling prophecy. We should not be moving closer to the USA. We should not be pursuing closer security relations with the USA. I hope that our government proceeds with caution on this issue. I hope that Winston Peters, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, will exercise some common sense on this issue. I hope that Chris Luxon does not follow his party's tradition of pushing for New Zealand to serve as a mindless US pawn.